2 years ago, I was 31 and working as an IT project manager, living a fairly quiet but content life. At the time, I was in a relationship with Allison, a 28-year-old woman who seemed, at least to me, to be the partner I had been waiting for. We had been together for 6 months. Our days were filled with constant messages, our weekends with shared plans, and our lives had begun to intertwine in those subtle ways that made me believe we were building something real. She had a toothbrush at my place. I had some clothes at hers, and to anyone watching, we looked like a couple on the steady path toward a future together. But Allison came from a world very different than mine. She was born into a wealthy, influential family. Her father was a respected judge, her mother ran high-profile charity events, and her brother was carving out a career in politics. Their family name carried weight, appearing on buildings and institutions across the city. Compared to them, I was ordinary, middle-class, hard-working, invisible in the eyes of people like them. Yet I never thought that difference would matter in our relationship. One Friday evening, when plans with a friend unexpectedly fell through, I decided to surprise Allison. She had told me she'd be out with girlfriends at Compass, a lively pub we both knew well. I thought it would be sweet to drop in, maybe buy her a drink, and spend some time together. What I walked into, however, turned my world upside down. There she was, not surrounded by her female friends, as she had claimed, but wrapped in the arms of another man. His hands rested possessively on her waist, while her fingers lingered on his chest. Their lips met in a kiss so intimate it silenced me inside. My heart raced, my stomach twisted, and the only word that left my mouth was her name. Allison. She looked at me, her eyes flashing with something I couldn't name. First surprise, then calculation. Without missing a beat, she asked coldly, "Can I help you?" As though I were a stranger intruding on her evening. The man she was with, calling her Ollie, a nickname she had never once let me use, asked if everything was okay. My throat tightened, and I tried to explain. "We're together," I stammered, pointing between us. What came next was cruelty so deliberate it cut deeper than the betrayal itself. Allison laughed loudly, turning to the crowd around us. "Someone call security," she shouted. "This creep's been following me all night." The pub went silent. Heads turned. Within seconds, 2 large bouncers had their hands on me, dragging me away as I tried desperately to explain. "We've been together 6 months. Check my phone, the texts, the photos." But no one listened. The bouncers only repeated, "Sir, you need to leave." I looked back at Allison, silently begging her to end the charade, to admit the truth. Instead, she stared at me without a flicker of remorse and said, "I've never seen this man before in my life." Moments later, I was thrown onto the wet sidewalk outside. Rain poured down, soaking me instantly as the pub door slammed shut. I sat there, humiliated, abandoned, and stripped of dignity. For a long time, I couldn't even move. But humiliation can ignite something darker. That night, and in the days that followed, a cold, calculated anger took hold. I didn't call or text her. Instead, I began collecting everything that tied us together. Every text, every photo, every social media post she hadn't deleted, every receipt from dinners and trips, hotel bookings, even small notes we'd exchanged. Piece by piece, I built a dossier of proof that our relationship had been real. What I discovered as I dug deeper was worse than betrayal. It was a web. Allison wasn't just with me and the man from the pub. She was juggling 3 other relationships simultaneously. One from her family's law firm, another connected to her father's political allies, and the man I had seen her with that night. None of us knew about the others. I made 3 copies of the evidence. One digital, one physical at my apartment, and one printed and bound like a legal file. That bound copy I sent directly to her father, the judge, with note, "Asterisk your daughter's character documented. This goes public tomorrow unless you and Allison meet me at my apartment at 7:00 p.m. asterisk." His call came within an hour. His voice thundered with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing? This is blackmail." Calmly, I replied, "It's just the truth. I haven't asked for money. But if you prefer, I can send this to your law firm partners, the Bar Association, your wife's charity board, and your kids' colleges." The choice is yours." After a heavy silence, he asked coldly, "What do you want?" The next evening they arrived. Allison looked pale and small, her father glowering beside her. I told them plainly what I expected. Allison would return to the Compass pub the following Friday night, in front of the same crowd, and publicly admit she had lied, that we were together, that she had humiliated me, and that I had not been a stalker. If she did, the files would stay private. The judge agreed, shutting down Allison's protests. And so, the plan was set. That Friday, the pub was crowded again. Allison entered at 8 o'clock, clearly miserable. At 8:15, the man she had been with that night arrived too. I stood up, calling for attention. The pub grew quiet as I told everyone what had happened the week before. I described how Allison had lied, how I'd been dragged out like a criminal. Then I turned to her. Her face burned red as she mumbled, "It's true. We were dating. I lied. I'm sorry." At my urging, she said it louder, the words hanging heavy in the air. The bouncers who had thrown me out shifted uncomfortably, and one of them apologized. Satisfied, I walked out, leaving Allison behind. But my revenge didn't end there. That night, I released the evidence to her father's law firm partners, the Bar Association's ethics committee, and her workplace supervisor. By morning, Allison was fired. Within days, her entire social circle knew the truth. 3 weeks later, my doorbell rang. To my surprise, Allison's entire family stood there. The judge looked far less intimidating than before, his wife subdued, Allison hollow-eyed. They asked to come in. Inside, the judge told me, "What you did was wrong. Blackmail is a crime." I nodded. I knew it. I admitted I had been consumed by anger and humiliation, and I wanted Allison to feel what I had felt. Her mother, voice soft but firm, said, "We didn't raise her behave like this." Allison finally whispered, "I'm sorry. What I did was cruel." They pleaded with me to recall the documents, to stop the damage spreading further. Allison had lost her job, her reputation, and was now in therapy. I realized in how much I had changed, how revenge had transformed me into someone unrecognizable. The satisfaction was fleeting, replaced by discomfort at the destruction I'd caused. So I agreed, not for Allison, but for myself. I retracted my claims publicly, admitting I had shared the information out of personal grievance. It didn't undo everything, but it allowed them space to rebuild. I never saw Allison again after that. She moved away, and her father quietly retired the following year. Their family's reputation suffered, but endured. As for me, I moved to a new city, started over, and carried with me the unsettling knowledge of what I was capable of when pushed to the edge. I don't regret exposing Allison's betrayal, but I do regret the path I chose, the blackmail, the collateral damage, the darkness that briefly defined me. Even now, 2 years later, I sometimes sit and reflect on how quickly betrayal can twist a person into someone they don't even recognize.